Hello, beautiful children. It is wonderful to see you in my mind's eye. I've got my t-shirt on and I'm ready to do the Parashat. Do you know what the Parashat is? Shout it out. You're all back at school. Hopefully you should know the Parashat. And if you don't, I'm going to tell you it's Parashat Emor in the third book of the Torah, Vayikra. Are we ready to go for it? Rolling back the time, and one more, rolling back the time, and one more, rolling back the time, and thinking and thinking and thinking. Well, I was so pleased to share Shabbat with some of you, a few of you last Shabbat, and please God, I can't wait to see you again this Shabbat, and hopefully it won't be boring this Shabbat either. I think we're sort of hopefully going to make it exciting as much as I can make it exciting when we're all sitting and so far away from each other. Okay, but if you can't come, you can watch this video. So we talk about the tribe of Levi as a very important tribe, the tribe of Levi, the Leviim, in this week's Parashat. And they're chosen as the holiest tribe. And the Kohanim are the holiest in that tribe. And the Leviim were always loyal to Hashem. They never served idols. I think they always did Brit Milah, circumcision. And if one of their closest relatives went back to Hashem, they had to be very, very careful that only certain relatives they could bury and other relatives they weren't allowed to bury. So what were their closest relatives? Well, if I say Ima, what's that? Mother. Abba, father. Ben, son. Bat, daughter. Brother, ach. Unmarried sister, achot she'od lo nesua. And isha, wife. But the Kohen Gadol can't bury anyone. Okay, even a Kohen Gadol must bury a met mitzvah. If someone dies suddenly, the Kohen Gadol is responsible for saying, is there anyone there? Help, please. And if nobody answers, then he has to do the job himself. That's what the Torah tells us. So we have to stay being Jewish no matter what. If we're not sure, we listen to our mummies and daddies and they tell us what to do, and hopefully they will guide us, and our teachers and our rabbis will guide us. We may not serve idols. We may not murder and marry the wrong person. We have to be decent. Okay, so there we go. We must be ready to give up our lives to honor Hashem. This was shown in the times of the Crusades and the Spanish Inquisition. Nasty people who wanted to hurt the Jewish people. We're very lucky that at the moment where we're living in safety. But there were times during the Jewish people's history when they weren't safe and people treated them very badly. One example of Kiddush Hashem is helping older people. That's a nice thing to do. Okay, so we have to keep the Yomim Tovim and Shabbat. Do you know what the Yomim Tovim are? Do you know what the high holy days are? Can you think? If I say to you, the Shalosh Regalim, what does that mean? Regel is a foot. So Shalosh Regalim is almost like 3 feet. Well, have you got 3 feet? I haven't got 3 feet, I've got 2 feet. Well, that's because the high holidays aren't 1 or 2, there are 3 high holidays that in the olden days when the Bnei Israel had Hashem's special tent, the Mishkan, and Hashem's special house, the Bet HaMikdash, they would, when they had Hashem's special house, when there was Jerusalem, they would go and Ola Regal. They would go with all their first new fruits and crops and korbanot presents to Hashem. They trundle up to Jerusalem. So what were those 3 high holy days? Well, they were Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkot. And what about other important dates that are mentioned in the Torah this week? We have Rosh Hashanah and we have Yom Kippur. So what happened on Pesach? We've already been there and done it. It wasn't so far away. We're counting from the second day of Pesach until the day before Shavuot, and that's called the Omer. And during the Omer, there are specific things we don't do. But we're going to come up to Lag BaOmer this Friday. Maybe I'm going to talk to you a little bit about that when we finish the Parsha laminates. Korban Pesach. What was the present to Hashem that was the Korban Pesach? Do you remember? It could be a lamb or a goat. And it was brought Erev Pesach. It was eaten that night with maror and with matzah. What about the Korban Omer? That was brought on the second day of Pesach. Do you remember which grains that was? Do you remember? That was barley. Telling the story of Yetziat Mitzrayim at the Seder, we know all about that. No chametz, 7 days in Israel, 8 days outside of Israel. And in the month of Nisan, on the 15th, they had a special Pesach, and it would come in. There we go. And there is a daddy teaching Pesach maybe, or reading a story to his son. Could be a mummy and her daughter. It could be a daddy to the daughter. It could be a mummy to the son. It could be loads of different children with loads of different family members. The important is that we share Pesach with everyone and we learn about it. So the next one, Shovelwatch, aka the Cheesecake Festival. We're not given a specific date. We're told to count the 50th day after counting the Omer. There it is, yabba dabba doo, we've got Shavuot, the 6th and the 7th of Sivan. And then we have Shtei HaLechem, the 2 wheat loaves. So barley is the second day of Pesach, and then Shavuot is the 2 wheat loaves offering, which is shared among the Kohanim. And what happened at Shavuot? Well, we know that 10 commandments were given at Har Sinai. We hear them and we stand in shul, and it is as if we were at Har Sinai. What's the next thing we learn? Well, we learn about Rosh Hashanah. Rosh Hashanah, the first and second day of Tishri, today. Hashem judges us and all the nations of the world. The shofar is blown, not on Shabbat, and the shofar comes from a horn of an animal. It's a ram's horn. And we remember Akedat Yitzchak when Avraham was about to sacrifice his own son as a present to Hashem, when they said, don't touch the boy. And they found a ram and gave the ram to Hashem as a present instead. Yom Kippur. It's another picture of a daddy and a son, but it could be a mummy and a daughter. It could be a daddy and a daughter. It could be a mummy and a son. It could be nephews and cousins and uncles and nieces and aunts and grandmas and grandpas and sisters and brothers. Any other combination of family and friends. On Yom Kippur, the 10th of Tishri. It's a fast day. It's the great Shabbat. It reminds us of the 10 tests of Abraham, the 10 commandments. And Bnei Israel are forgiven for the sin of the golden calf on Yom Kippur. All the things that are associated with Yom Kippur, obviously apart from fasting and davening and not wearing leather. Sukkot, a happy festival with lots of Hidur mitzvah, which lots of making the mitzvah beautiful. Happy festival, 15th of Tishri, after Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. We have done Teshuvah and are forgiven. Hooray! 7 days in Israel, 8 days everywhere else. Gathering of all grains and fruit, picking up the lulav and the etrog, the hadassim and the aravot. Mitzvah of a beautiful sukkah nowadays that we still have. And now I'm going to move on to Lag BaOmer. So, about 2,000 years ago, there was a very ignorant but an honest shepherd, a lovely person called Akiva. And each day he looked after his sheep because he was a shepherd. And one day he noticed that there was a hole in a rock. Drip, 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 drip. When there's too much drip, 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 it will come through. You think you can keep it out, but the drip, 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 drip will get absorbed. And Akiva thought, wow, if that water can penetrate, if that water can get into that rock, then surely the Torah can enter my heart, even though I'm 40. And he immediately went to the yeshiva of Rabbi Eliezer and he began learning Torah. And he became the leading rabbi of his generation. Who would have thought that? And when two rabbis are in dispute, they will always go according to Rabbi Akiva's leaning. And Rabbi Akiva came from a family of converts, from people who had converted to Judaism. And he married a woman named Rachel. And her daddy, Kalba Savua, thought, well, hang on a minute, Rachel, you're marrying this very poor man. You know, you could marry any very wealthy people. And he's just ignorant. He's not very clever. And Rachel wouldn't hear a word about that. And Rabbi Akiva, wasn't rabbi yet maybe, he went off to a yeshiva to learn for 10, 12 years. And then SPS, some people say, as he was returning, he heard her say, I wish my husband would learn another 12 years. And he went straight back and went to learn another 12 years. And he came back with 24,000 students and said to her, whatever you see here is because of you. But unfortunately, something happened to all these 24,000 students. They all died during the Sephira period, during the period of counting the Omer from Pesach to Shovelwatch. They stopped dying on Lag BaOmer, on the 18th day. And so this was a very sad thing to happen, because they probably didn't treat themselves. They didn't treat people as nicely as they should. So Lag BaOmer, on the 33rd day, they all passed away, which coincides, I think, with the 18th of the Hebrew equivalent month. Okay. And also the Romans were around at the time of Rabbi Akiva, and they said, no Torah, no Torah. And in the end, Rabbi Akiva, of course, didn't listen. He carried on learning Torah, and they caught him. And that was terribly sad. And the last thing he said was, which part of the tefillah? Was it Ma Tovu? Was it Modeh Ani? Was it Yigdal? Was it Baruch Shama? We are told that the last prayer that he said was Shema Yisrael, Hashem Elokeinu, Hashem Echad. That, hear, O Israel, Hashem is our God, Hashem is one. And we know that Rabbi Akiva had a student called Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, and he revealed many secrets of the Torah to his students on the day of his death. And that is all written in a book called the Zohar. Isn't that exciting? And the day that the Jewish people should celebrate was the day he revealed those wonderful secrets, which was Lag BaOmer. Listen to your mummies and daddies and do what they say. Listen to your mummies and daddies, please don't forget to pray. Listen to your mummies and daddies, our rabbis lead the way. Then they will be happy. Take care, don't be worried about anything. Carry on learning beautifully, and who knows, maybe I'll see you very soon in shul.